Okay, think for a moment about the data folks in your organization. The engineers, the analysts, the data scientists. Ideally, they're all working together smoothly, right? Like a well-oiled machine. But have you ever had that feeling? Maybe they're tackling things a bit separately, in their own silos, using different tools perhaps, or even looking at the data slightly differently. It happens a lot, actually. And the results, well, projects slow down, work gets repeated, and maybe the insights aren't quite as sharp as they could be. Sound familiar?
It really does. And it's interesting that you have all these really smart people. But if they're working on connected problems but kind of in isolation, you just lose something. You get friction, maybe misunderstandings. The real power, the magic with data often comes when you bring those different skills together.
Absolutely. It's about synergy. So what if we could, make that collaboration easier, smoother? That's kind of where something like BigQuery starts to come into the picture. Now, a lot of people might just think, oh, BigQuery, yeah, data warehouse, storage. But it seems like it's becoming, well, more than that, like a whole environment designed for teamwork.
That's a great way to put it. If you sort of zoom out, BigQuery isn't just storage anymore. It's really thinking about the whole data workflow. How do teams actually use the data together? It's evolving into a platform where collaboration is like baked in, not an afterthought.
Yeah.
And that fundamental shift, well, it changes how fast and effectively organizations can actually get value from their data.
Okay, so let's dig into that. How does it actually do that? What are the bits inside BigQuery that help break down those walls between, say, an engineer and an analyst?
Well, one absolutely fundamental piece is the idea of a single source of truth, a central place. With BigQuery, everyone, the engineers building pipelines, the analysts exploring trends, the scientists training models are all looking at the exact same data underneath. This immediately gets rid of those really frustrating situations where, Team A has slightly different numbers than Team B. That breeds distrust, right? And inconsistent results.
Yeah, that makes total sense. No more, well, my data says this. Everyone starts from the same baseline. Trust. Okay, what else?
Then there's the common language aspect. SQL. Analysts have obviously been SQL pros forever, but data engineers rely on it heavily too. And what's really interesting now is how many data scientists are also using SQL, especially for that initial data prep and exploration. So having SQL as this kind of shared foundation, it just helps everyone understand what the others are doing. They can validate each other's work much more easily.
I like that. So an analyst writes a query, an engineer can look at it and get the logic, and a data scientist can see the data lineage without needing to, learn a whole separate system just to pull the data. That sounds way more efficient.
Exactly right. And building right on top of that, you have these integrated notebook environments. Think BigQuery Studio or Vertex AI Workbench. These are designed so data scientists can work with Python, maybe R, but right alongside SQL, all in the same interface. So they're not constantly jumping between different tools, different platforms, worrying about moving data or infrastructure compatibility issues.
Right, it's like a shared workbench. That's going to cut down on all that back and forth, the setup time, the can you export this for me kind of stuff.
Precisely. And another really interesting piece here is BigQuery ML, BQML they call it. This lets analysts who often really understand the business context and the questions being asked actually start building and prototyping machine learning models using just SQL. Think about that for a second. Faster experiments, models that are maybe more grounded in immediate business needs from the start. It lowers the barrier for trying out ML ideas.
Well, okay, so an analyst spots something interesting, and they can actually take the first step towards a predictive model right there and then, without necessarily needing a data scientist involved right away. That sounds like it really empowers them. Faster insights.
It definitely does. And then think about the engineers. BigQuery helps them collaborate too. They can create and publish these really high-quality shared data assets, things like pre-cleaned, documented data sets, or reusable bits of code, user-defined functions, UDFs. Think of them like approved calculation snippets, or even specific curated views of the data tailored for certain uses. And because these are managed and documented centrally, analysts and scientists can just pick them up and use them confidently. They know the data's been prepped and it's reliable.
So the engineers are essentially laying down this solid, trustworthy foundation, and everyone else builds on top of that. That must save a ton of time, right? Less repetitive data cleaning across different teams.
Huge amount of time. And underpinning all this, you've got the governance tools built in. Things like IAM for managing who can see and touch what data, keeping it secure but accessible to the right people, and tools like Dataplex, which helps catalog everything so you have visibility. Where did this data come from? How is it being used?
Okay, that makes sense. Single source, shared language with SQL, integrated tools like notebooks and BQML, and these governed shared building blocks from engineering. Can you maybe walk us through a quick example? Like, how would this actually play out on a real project?
Sure. Let's take customer churn prediction. Classic example. Traditionally, maybe the engineers pull customer interaction data from various sources, clean it up, maybe put it in one place. Then they might hand it off to the data scientists. The scientists then spend a bunch of time exploring engineering features, then building a model. Then those results might go to analysts who maybe build dashboards in a separate BI tool to show marketing what's happening.
Yeah.
Lots of steps, lots of handoffs.
Yeah, sounds very linear and maybe slow, with potential for things to get lost in translation between steps.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But now, picture it with BigQuery as the hub. Engineers build their pipelines, land the clean, structured data directly into BigQuery, maybe partitioning it nicely. Data scientists can then access that same data instantly using, say, BigQuery Studio. They can do their feature engineering there, maybe even train an initial churn model using BQML with SQL. And then analysts can connect their BI tools, like Looker perhaps, directly to those same curated tables or maybe the model results in BigQuery. They can visualize the churn drivers, deliver insights to marketing. It's all happening on the same platform using the same core data.
Ah, I see. Much more fluid. Everyone's kind of working concurrently on the same foundation. Less waiting, less chance of misalignment because they're literally looking at the same thing.
Precisely. You cut out the duplication, you speed up the cycle time from data to insight, and everyone's more aligned. And if you think about it from a leadership angle, this kind of setup really fosters a culture where data isn't just one team's job. It's a shared responsibility. It becomes more of a team sport driving innovation together.
That paints a really compelling picture. So it sounds like the big takeaway here is that data teams need to be more collaborative going forward, and platforms like BigQuery are actively being built to make that happen. It's enabling that shift.
I think that's exactly right. And, if you're interested in digging even deeper into how BigQuery helps bridge those gaps between engineers, analysts, and scientists, there's a great blog post called The Future of Data Teams that really explores these features in more detail. Worth a read.
Good tip. And maybe if you're listening and you're part of a data team, or maybe building one, it's worth looking out for companies that really prioritize this collaborative approach. Organizations like the ones Curate Partners often works with, they focus on connecting people with those forward-thinking, team-oriented data cultures.
Yeah, ultimately, the problems we're trying to solve with data are getting more complex. Working together effectively isn't just nice to have anymore, it's becoming essential.
So the final thought might be keep asking those better questions, challenging the data, but also think about how you're building smarter, more connected teams. Thanks. This has been a really insightful deep dive.